We'll have a panel discussion now. We are happy to have with us some of the new age filmmakers from the Northeast who are pushing the boundaries and making a name for themselves on a national and international level. So without delay, please help me welcome Prathamesh Krishang, the talented director of the wonderful movie that you just watched and enjoyed. I'd request him to kindly come on stage and take his seat. I'd also request Director, Information and Public Relations of Northeast Council, Shri Manas Ranjan Mahapatra, to kindly come on stage. Please put your hands together to welcome on stage Sonia Nepram. Her directorial debut was with the documentary film Gun and a God, which is about the journey of a woman who was victimized by the structural violence of the society. She is currently working on her second film based on Manipuri Phanek. I'd request Sir to kindly felicitate Sonia Nepram, a small token of appreciation on behalf of Brahmaputra Valley Film Festival. I'd request Sonia Nepram to kindly take your seat. Now please put your hands together for Wanfranke Dendo, an independent filmmaker based in Shillong and Delhi. His films including 19/87, Kali Kamai installation as well as his music videos reflect his interest in the politics and culture of his hometown. Shillong Brahmaputra Valley Film Festival would like to take this opportunity to felicitate him as well. I'd request Mahapatra sir to kindly felicitate him with a small token of appreciation on behalf of Brahmaputra Valley Film Festival, the 4th edition in the year 2016. Thank you so much, sir. Sir, I'd request you to kindly take your seat. Finally, we'd like to call upon stage our moderator for the session, Rupa Borua. Rupa has a certificate in film production from New York Film Academy and has also taken film criticism courses at the University of California, Berkeley. 65-minute documentary Riders of the Mist was her first feature-length film. Earlier, she had directed a short film named Falkland Road, if I've pronounced it correctly. She will be moderating the discussion today, and so it's over to you. I'll hand over the mic as well.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. So we have a panel today, as you can see, all the budding filmmakers from the Northeast, all critically acclaimed, in their process wherever they are. We are going to be talking about new age filmmaking. That's all we know, really. We were not there, 20 years ago when there was film. We are not part of the big studio systems. We pretty much guerrilla filmmaking. We go out and shoot. We don't ask for permissions. We take whatever cameras we have at home, right? And if somebody wants to give me their cameras, I'll take that too. That's how we are. But we want to tell stories, and that's the reason. I guess we are all in this panel here together today. But at the end of the day, it's a story that we want to tell you. It's a story we want to bring out to the world. Of course, the standards have to be very high. It's very competitive out there. So there's a lot of that. But let me just introduce everybody straight away. Sonia, if you want to say a little bit about yourself, and then, we kind of...
Is it working?
Yeah, it is.
Hello, everyone. It's a great opportunity for me to actually come here. And first of all, I came to actually learn a lot from this festival, and it's quite actually a golden opportunity. I have just attempted my debut film in 2013, and it's about a woman, an ex-insurgent who was born to an unknown father and who actually faced a lot of discrimination as her life was actually tagged as a disgrace inheritance. So, see, the thing is, the most important thing is, are you really passionate about telling stories? And the rest actually comes later. But then, if we are talking about new age filmmaking, I think I mean, a whole lot of debate is going to happen, because after the shooting, a lot of things is going to happen. Probably, yeah.
Right. So we'll, as Sonia said, we want to tell a story, and that's the first thing. And then we kind of go shoot the film, and then we get into now what to do with what we shot, literally. And there's a story in place. Remember, we had a story to begin with. So now we have to take it from point A to point B and on to point C. So Wanfra, can you introduce yourself and, maybe tell us a little bit about what you do and how you do it?
Thank you to everyone who's present here this wonderful evening. I'm a filmmaker primarily, but I also look into the creation of culture, the context that creates it, the kind of society that nurtures a particular kind of an art form. So apart from films, I also do that. But as far as New Age filmmaking is concerned, my foray started, I think, way back, well, I wouldn't say way back, 5 years ago in 2011 when I did 1987. That was my debut film. We didn't have enough money, but we somehow managed to shoot the film and edit it in at my place on a home computer. Also, the change in technology has only meant that it's facilitated the editing of films and the creation of films to be much more accessible to the average person. But apart from that, I also do video installations as well. And last year I had done an installation called Non-Diegetic Identities, where we had multiple projectors, screened it all over surfaces on walls. And it's also interesting to see that how films or visual images now are no longer relegated to conventional screen. You can carry a projector everywhere and you can screen it all around. But yeah, I think we should just carry on.
And that's what Wanfra says is very interesting. He said that we don't need those big multiplexes anymore. He said he just puts together video installations, art installations, that all he needs is a projector really to put it out to people. And that's a big thing that's happening now. And I'll introduce myself. I have a documentary, Riders of the Mist, which was actually screened here last year. And it has gone through, I have shown it at festivals and I've shown it at, smaller venues. I've gone all the way from little places with, 10 people sitting there. And it's public, it's not family, to, bigger multiplexes where they have festivals. But, you take it all over and you show it just how you can show it. And that's what really matters. Now, of course, Prathamesh, we just saw his film. Well, thank you for making a film. He's from Pune, by the way. Give him a big hand. He's made a film. He has nothing to do with Assam. Well, now he has a lot. But really, when he started, all he wanted to do was, tell a story. And look what he's done. So why don't you introduce yourself, and then we can take it to the next thing.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys, for coming and then also staying back to listen to us. So everybody had food. Yeah. Because, it was a very odd timing when the film was going on. I saw that a lot of people were hungry, so they just went off. And so basically, I'm Prathamesh. I am from Pune, and the film was actually a blog, which one of my friends wrote, Manjeet Nath. And I really loved the story, and I said, okay, I want to make a film about that. So I called him, he said, okay, and then that's how it started in 2013, and it took us 2 years to complete the film, with all the problems that came, and yeah, that's how we completed the film. So yeah, we will discuss further about the new age filmmaking, but that's who I am right now. So
sure. One question I'd like to ask you. I saw somewhere in the credits that there was a lot of people who had funded the film.
Yes.
So essentially you went into a crowdfunding at some point,
absolutely.
Right?
So what happened is when when the first time I came to Assam for shooting this film, I did not know anything. I planned I should come here for 15 days, but it ended up happening for 45 days. So 45 days I was here only, and we cast local actors. Everything was super local. And the only thing that was not local is the language in the film, which is Hindi. So
that's fine. You wanted to take it to a more global audience,
yes,
I guess.
So the whole idea was, because see, what happened is when I showed this film to a lot of people in Pune, Mumbai and other cities, they said, I never knew something like this was happening.
Right.
I mean, that was a big deal for me because that's what the whole point was. So after 45 days, I was totally bankrupt, literally. I spent all my money, plus I got a few friends to send me some money so that I could complete at least 70% of the film, because the remaining I could shoot in Pune. And so I came back for 6 months. I repaid all the friends who gave me money, and then I started a crowdfunding campaign through which we raised some money. And the reason I was so it was possible to complete the film without
And
crowdfunding.
you have stars. I mean, you have Adil Hussain in the film. You know, he doesn't. I'm sure it was great experience for you to work with him. But as we know, he's a very, very busy person, and to get your 30-minute short film and getting Adil Hussain in and getting crowdfunding, that's huge. And then Amrit Pritam and Rasul, of course, worked on your music, your sound
design. Yeah.
So again, that is something else that comes with this new age filmmaking. You never know who will be impressed with your storyline, like who will actually be there for you. You can go through, whoever 10 people that you had shortlisted, and then boom, somebody else comes in.
Yeah,
and,
anything can happen from anywhere, man. And because I had no idea what could happen. So what happened is, while coming, I had no idea Adil Hussain might work in I didn't even think of it. I met Shukracharya Rabab, who is here. Thank you, Shukrada, for everything. Because without you, nothing could have happened. So he said, okay, it's a brilliant story. Let's talk with Adilda for the role of father, because it's a very important role and it needs to be really powerful. And I said, okay. I knew that he was not going to say yes. So I was like, okay, why not? And so Adilda asked me to email the script. I sent him an email and he called me back. He's like, hi, Prathamesh, I'm Adil Hussain. I'm like, I was totally blacked out. Oh shit, what happened? And so Adilda said, okay, why are you making this movie and all? I gave him a few reasons, and he said, okay, I'm coming.
You want to share those reasons?
Yeah, so basically, I told him, first of all, I love the story. I think that was the main reason he also liked coming, because I liked the story. Plus, I have this very emotional bond with, regions where people are... a lot of social conditions are very tough, and people are still getting out of those situations and doing something. Because as a kid, I myself, there are a lot of similarities between me as a kid and the protagonist of the film.
So we'll go to that in a bit.
Exactly.
Let's go to that when we come to the storytelling part of it.
Yeah.
Sonia, do you have anything to share where it comes to, when you had your story in place, and your story is from Manipur, and you are from Manipur yourself. So, agreed the foundation of the story was right there in your, in your home state. How did you think, with the kind of tools we have today, to take it to the next level? Did you go to funding stages? Did you go to festivals? Did you go online? I mean, what did you do to, agreed we don't all have 30 lakhs sitting, some film finance ministry giving us. Nobody has that. Most of us don't have it. Some people do. But what did you do? What was your thing?
It's I don't know. It's a long story. In fact, Manipur is a place where Hindi itself is banned, and people are actually kind of thinking that probably this is a time to improve our own way of telling cinema, or finding our own language of cinema, probably because we have been imitating and copying the Bollywood. I feel like that. In fact, the Saas Bahu serials, and in this mainstream, fiction kind of a wave, how does a documentary actually survive? In my place, back home, in my village, in fact, that people have this notion that documentaries are for the old people and it's boring. But sometimes I also feel that why not we actually penetrate this different age group of maybe youth or any kind of thing. So I feel that after the film has been made, or whether they get national awards or international awards, it ends up in the cupboard, or I don't know, we don't get to see. So I thought we should able to actually reach out to the audience. So I released it online. My first film, my debut film, was released online.
How, if I may ask you, how much, did you go through festivals, or you released it online immediately?
Yeah, I released it online.
Okay, she released it online immediately.
And
that's very interesting to know.
Within seconds, there were lots of viewers, and I was surprised to see that 16 years old kid, 14 years old kid, they are mailing me that they were shocked to see documentary for the first time. And they said they could relate to the story. And the most important thing is, are we going to make documentary accessible to many people? How are we going to connect to the people? How are we going to make our own community according to the theme we are working on? I think we should actually start making, building communities where we have the same interest, we have the same actually hope to actually build up a community. So I think
how many hits did you have? What's your total viewership now on your YouTube?
Now,
the video that you have uploaded.
More than 20,000.
She has more than 20,000 views on her documentary. That is amazing. For the kind of money we have to spend, we don't have a lot of money to spend funding our promos. Let me give you a little example of how it goes. I live in Mumbai myself, and I kind of see Bollywood all around me. So if the budget of a film is, and I'm talking a very small budget film, say the budget of the film is 10 crores. 5 of that will go into production and 5 of that will go into marketing and PR. And this is how exactly the numbers work for them. And here we have somebody who put it online and she had 20,000 viewers viewing the documentary, which is very huge. Even if I took my documentary through 20 festivals, I doubt I would have 20,000 people who'd watch it. It just doesn't happen. So that shows the reach of the web that we've all used in some way or the other. Wanfra, do you want to elaborate on anything that you think is relevant?
I think that before I get to the point that I'm trying to make, I must mention this, that the first Assamese film that was made in 1935 by Jyoti Prasad Agarwal.
Jaimoti.
Yes. If you look at the technical aspects of that film, I don't think it's great. Just like any first film from any regional language. This will take a little bit of time, but if you could just...
Sure. Yeah.
But the history behind the director is quite interesting, because he studied economics in Edinburgh, and then on his way back stops at Berlin to study filmmaking at this institute called the UFA. Now the UFA was founded by a Swiss-German banker. I forget the exact nationality of his. But he stops over at UFA to study filmmaking, and one of the patrons of this filmmaking institute was a Nazi, Emil George von Strauss. So von Strauss was also pretty important in terms of facilitating the power transfer to the Nazi once the war was over. So these were the kind of environs where the films were being made. But interestingly enough, that you mentioned Manipur, because Germany was having a complete cut-off of any kind of films that were coming from outside. So there was only German films that were encouraged.
The propaganda films, right?
So were the Allied forces as well. So were the Allied forces. Yeah. So what happened in this context was that Germany became the biggest distributor and the biggest maker of films at that point of time. Eventually the rights were being bought by an American company. But we live in an era now where as a filmmaker, the most important and pertinent thing that we constantly ask ourselves is funding. I think we'd all agree with that. Mm-hmm. But the nature of the funding is also pretty interesting. Who are the patrons of art? What is the exact dialogue that they want to say themselves? So some of these art patrons could come from CSR spin-offs, where art festivals or films are just a small fraction of their entire marketing campaign. So you would have a film festival being organized in certain spaces where it gets pretty problematic in terms of what exactly they do in these spaces.
The film markets that come with every film festival, that's what he's talking about. Every film festival.
Yeah, if you allow me to finish.
Go ahead. Yeah.
So what is the relationship between indigenous people of that space? So for example, me as a Khasi person, and the relationship with these corporations. How do we somehow, at the same time, filmmaker, be honest with our work, but yet at the same time also gain access to funding? So I think this is the kind of dialogue that new age filmmakers constantly go through.
Right, and you know what he said about the film markets, that's the funding part of it, and that's something that you would get in any of these, the bigger film festivals all over the world. They will have a market, and you will go to the market and you'll ask for funding. And it's interesting because the biggest funders out of India, I mean outside of India, are like Germany, Canada, France, UK, if I'm not mistaken, and they have huge art responsibilities in their arts domain. So that's a place for funding. And that's also something that a lot of the new age filmmakers tap into, and I would urge all of you to tap into that if you ever want to go the route for funding. Now, when it comes to one thing I would like to, ask all of you is that, when you tell your story, there's three things about the new age filmmaking as we think it is: how you're telling your story, and who you're reaching out to, and what are the technical details in which you're telling the story. The technicals is, of course, your camera, your edit, all of that, your production and your post-production. And then how are you connecting with the audience, and what kind of stories are you telling? Can I ask all three of you, when it comes to your stories, is it, the new age, has it led you to say more personal stories? Or do you think, you have kind of come away from the generic in the olden days? We had very generic, Assamese films we know were very generic till a point. Now we can say more personal stories because, we can all say stories, and we can all say the stories that we want to say, not, the Buhari and the whatever we saw in the... I love those films, don't get me wrong, but they were generic to a certain point, So, and the same goes for Bollywood. So Sonia, if you want to start, tell us a little bit about your film and how it was like a little personal journey for you as far as the film is concerned.
Actually, after the film, I started researching on a simple kind of a topic. It is the attire we wear, which is globally known as sarong, but we call it panek. Women wear it. And this particular sarong is considered impure or let's say a defiled piece of cloth in our society, and we believe that it challenges masculinity. But what happened is that when I started growing up in Manipur, I was born and brought up in Manipur, and women started using this panek as a weapon of protest happening in the society. Women started actually whipping men if they don't like, if something happened, if some kind of injustice happened to them. Even women started protesting themselves, ripping the fanek and protesting against AFSPA. So when I reached class 12, actually the insurgent actually imposed panek on us, that they told us that you're not supposed to wear panek, skirt, you will wear panek from today onwards. I didn't kind of like it. It's not that somebody is like trying to control us, but we never liked somebody actually imposing what you are supposed to wear. But now that I am in a condition to actually tell a story, whatever thought process we go through, now we can speak. We can speak in terms of visuals. And I started actually researching on a film called Bloody Fanek. And I have been researching, since long. I've been questioning to myself why my mother is saying that. Why not hang it in the courtyard? My mom used to say that, dear, you are not supposed to hang your panek in the courtyard because it will bring bad luck to your father. I've been asking my question since childhood, why something which we wear with so much love and admirations, which actually this panek actually identify us as a community in the whole world. If I wear panek, people will actually know that I'm a Meitei. So I've been asking this question since childhood. Now I'm actually making this film. And there was a workshop which happened in Imphal, organized by the Doc Edge Kolkata. This is an Asian Forum for Documentary. And they actually came and had a workshop, and I actually pitched this in front of the mentors. And the workshop was all about developing the concept and actually grooming us to pitch in front of the global audience. I pitched this, and I got a chance to pitch in Kolkata, and I pitched there, and somehow my film on women issues, about women's voice, was selected by DMZ, which means Demilitarized Zone Film Festival, South Korea. Finally, I got fundings from South Korea.
So you see how amazing her journey is. She wanted to do a story on, a piece of garment that a lady wears. It's like the sador in Ahomia. Amar Mekla sador, they have the same thing. It's called a fane. It's kind of the same thing. And she wanted to do a story on that. Obviously, this is not straight commercial producers will not get into this film because it doesn't have an audience. You know, in their mind, it doesn't have an audience. So she goes to Docage in Calcutta, and then she not only does she get approvals to go ahead with the project, she gets into a film festival it's a film festival called the Demilitarized. Am I correct? Zone Film Festival. Which now, Sonia, if you were to see, like 5 years ago, would you even think that this would be possible?
Not
like,
at
you know,
all.
it's like a dream, right? You know, to have, you know, you with your little story of the garment that you wear. I mean, it's so personal. Yeah. You know, somebody not telling me not to wear, you know, what I'm wearing and say, hey, you know what, from tomorrow you need to wear something else. I mean, that's not done. Agreed. And then she decides to protest and she wants to make a documentary on it. She takes it to Docage in Calcutta. Calcutta takes it to this demilitarized zone. And here we have somebody who's probably you'll probably have a premiere there in a year or two whenever the film is done. This is the power of the New Age storytelling, where she's taking something so personal and taking it to an audience which is beyond Manipur, which is beyond the Northeast. And as somebody rightly said in Rima Kakti's thing, it's the personal stories that have the most global appeal, because those stories are universal for humankind. You know, everybody has a personal story, and that's where the appeal is. It's not generic. Generic is Shah Rukh Khan in his films. That's generic.
Rupa,
And,
I would like
yes.
to add something also. See, when I went to South Korea, I really want to, share some of the experience I had in South Korea. When I went in South Korea, they were actually shocked to see that I am an Indian. Number one. Number two, there were a huge seminar attended by all the Southeast Asian countries and filmmakers coming, and they said, why do we have to compare ourselves or set the standard towards the Cannes and Oscar? Why not we make a Southeast Asian genre film? So, I mean, my film wasn't supported by any government because it was a political film. Here lies the conflict. I have been running here and there for support, but I got no support from India, to be very frank. I don't know. I mean, it's surprising that Southeast Asians are actually waiting to learn a lot of things from Northeast. Assam itself is like India. It's so diverse. And they were shocked to see so many rich culture within a community called Meitei in Manipur. So they were quite shocked, and they really wanted to learn. They are open. They want to help even Southeast Asian, and they are trying to come together. China, Japan, Thailand, Taiwan, Indonesia, Cambodia, they are all together. We had a big meeting to actually come together. I don't know, when I came here, I was kind of shocked to see people are so much ingrained into Bollywood. I mean, I never got a chance to think about it. I mean, I am more towards the Southeast Asia. I could connect more towards the Southeast Asian countries.
Interestingly, there was a short film that was done by Kurosawa. It's a part of a short film series that he did. And I was amazed to see that there was a rainbow in the sky. And we have this Asmi's little poem called Rodu Dise Borokunu Dise Korakyalor Bia, you know. And they had the Japanese version of that. And it just blew my mind that, you know, they had the same poem in Japan. Same little, you know, 4-line poem that I didn't think it was out of the Northeast. I don't know if it is in Manipur. Basically, it says that, you know, there's the sun and then there's the rain. It's the foxes are getting married today. It's like a little funny kind of poem.
Is it Dreams?
It's the Dreams, the short film series that he has. And so this is when I'm talking affinity from the Northeast to Japan. This whole stretch, this is the amount of affinity we have. We haven't even explored, you know, forget, you know, anything else. It hasn't even been explored. And I think it's going to be explored as these kind of festivals come together. Do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, it's quite interesting. I think that, you know, there's a huge repository of stories that the country needs to learn from us. The ways in which we put it out there now entirely belongs to us. You know, I think like Bem put it out, Sonia put it out. YouTube has just been so democratically successful as far as access to content is concerned. I can sit at home and watch a documentary about whichever country that I choose to at the comfort of my home. You know, and you know, you'll not expect to see a documentary on a big screen in this country, which is sad. But then again, we go back to the whole funding, whatever argument. But it's what's interesting for me as a filmmaker is to also realize that some of these borders are all man-made. So most of my films, they all question this idea of a border. There's this huge desire to build walls all around us, but I think that that's very unnatural. It's something that human beings have always done since the time of their existence, that they've always moved, and which is why, like you rightly pointed out just now, that we probably share so many literary cultures with so many different communities. But along those lines, I'm working on this film on the World War I. It's a documentary about the participation of people from this region. In fact, there's a huge contingent that left from Manipur. There were about 50,000 people that left from present-day, what you would call Assam. You could say that it was the largest movement of people in the past 100 years to the theaters of war in France and Mesopotamia, and the lovely accounts of their tryst with modernity, how they experienced things, the fact that they came back here and became pioneers of literature, the fact that they came back here and wrote so extensively, had a huge amount of political sensitization as well. It's a time when the average white man that you would see on the road was either Sarkari Babu or a government official. But once you're there, you suddenly see that there are other working class people as well who perhaps might be different in terms of the color of their skin, but yet still share certain political and personal values. So they brought all these things back and inculcated them, which we have eventually internalized over a period of time.
That was it's called the Junaki age in Assam, Junaki Juk. Yeah. That was the Renaissance that happened in Assam. Yeah. Right after, even Jyoti Prasad and all of that, they had all gone to study literally in the West. And they brought back, whatever they thought. The Renaissance in Assam literally happened. And we would love to see, whenever you're done with your project, I think we'll be some of the biggest patrons of this because, So again, tell me how you want to take it out, in this age and time. Yes.
Even there's a lovely website called the Center for Hidden Histories, which is being run by, I forget the name.
Center for Hidden Histories, if you're interested.
So, if you have something which perhaps, it's not even a film, it's perhaps maybe a series of images of your relatives who were involved in some historical movement, or even for that matter, just personal images, because, the personal is always political eventually at some point of time. You could even write to them and share it with them, and they'd be more than happy to put it out there. So there was, I forget his name, but the article was published in the Sentinel, I believe. So the article that was published in the Sentinel also got a guest blog on the website, So this person now has people from all over the world trying to get in touch with him about how he got through his materials, the kind of research methodologies involved, the kind of people that he might know, because some of them are related to the names that were being mentioned. So it just, the online domain has just opened, this floodgates of ideas and technology and of course being the access,
Right. Well, there's a whole lot of that happening actually in Punjabis from Pakistan that now live in India. They want to go back to Pakistan and explore, their roots there. It's become a huge amount of blogs, as you said, online blogs, and they're literally tracing their journeys back. So this is also something which is all about new wave storytelling and new wave storytelling. Literally, the next point of that is new age filmmaking. You want to tell a story and you make a film. It's that simple. In the olden days, they wrote books. Today, the visual medium has become very, very important. Everybody has a smartphone. Everybody just wants to see it on their, on their whatever YouTube or whatever channels they subscribe to. So this is, it's the power. And Prathamesh, can you tell me a little bit about yourself? How are you planning to take this film? It's gone through its festivals, as you said. Yes. And now you're at the point where you want to take it to the masses, literally, right?
Yeah. So, to be honest, I am still figuring out what to do with this film, because see, putting it out is fine, I agree, and that's the whole idea. I am going to put it out for sure very soon. The point is, how can I create maximum impact with this film? That's what I'm trying to figure out. So I need to build a little context about what I am talking about. Okay, first thing, I was very happy when you said that your whole topic is about on this whole people trying to build walls, and that's what I have been doing as well, questioning as well. For a long time now. The perspective has been different, but of course it's a human tendency to build walls. So like Amrita said, I was very like it was very funny when said Bollywood कोई government का organization नहीं है. It is actually true. I mean, it is an ecosystem, and the thing is, why Bollywood works is because they have built a very robust ecosystem. What needs to happen is there needs to be other ecosystems which are equally robust, and for that, what happens is every ecosystem has its own way of working. I'll tell you a story. Okay, once got a call from a guy. He is a writer, and he said, "Hello, Prathamesh sir, बात कर रहे हैं क्या?" मैंने बोला, "हाँ, yeah, hi." So he said his name. He said, "Sir, मेरे पास एक script है. I am looking for a producer." And then I said, "Okay, but actually मेरे पास भी एक script है और मैं भी producer देख रहा हूँ." So he's like, "अच्छा, तो आप भी struggler हो क्या?" मैंने बोला, "हाँ, मैं भी struggler हूँ." So basically, you see where the problem is. We underestimate the power of stories, and we are underestimating who we are. And the reason that is because we are looking at Bollywood and trying to mimic that. That's not going to work. Okay. So let me tell you, the old model of building walls around a story, which is called as copyrights, is not working anymore. Okay. HBO, BBC. कोई भी piracy से नहीं, मतलब आप I am sure somebody must be watching Game of Thrones here. Somebody, yeah. So people who are smiling are watching. So you see, even they can't stop piracy. Then who are we to try to fight against it? So let's not fight against it. Let's try to figure out a different way of telling your film stories. So there is another problem. We are calling this a filmmaking industry or film industry. I think we should rather call it a storytelling industry. That whole way of talking about our industry itself changes the way we think about industry.
You can use different mediums also, like he uses
absolutely.
A video installation
like he said,
model. See, it's very interesting what Prathamesh said. He said it's not film anymore, it's storytelling.
Yeah, it's
which
storytelling
means you can combine so many different mediums to tell your stories. And that's where the beauty of the new age lies.
And I'll tell you a funny thing about new age filmmaking, okay? Everything that is new age filmmaking is trying to dissolve the borders and bring down the walls. Everything.
You're very right.
See, the walls between what a short film meant and a feature film meant is gone because it's digital. The only thing that defined short film and a feature film was the duration of the film. That's not the case anymore. It's a story. It creates equal impact. Okay, that's the point of telling stories. That's why we are stuck in this idea of making films and being in film industry. No. The new model is not about making a film and selling tickets. The new model is about building your community as a filmmaker. And filmmakers need to think of themselves as entrepreneurs, not just artists. Because, every story is very unique, and I think every story can have a very unique business model around it. And why am I so obsessed about it? Because the art is not going to stay if we don't have money anymore. And we need to figure out in this new times what to do. There is this quote which I'm very fascinated about. Life happens to you when you are busy making other plans. And I actually kind of tweak that a little bit to understand, like try to tell what I am exactly saying. The revolution happens when you are busy paying attention to the mainstream. Okay, so
I agree totally, and the way I think you phrased it very well, where you say that we cannot just be there waiting to have mainstream accept us. I mean, I'm like rephrasing you in another way completely. Mainstream accepting, no, we are the standard. We set our own standards. Who's mainstream? I mean, fine, you know what? They do 100 crores. Yeah. I mean, is it really 100 crores? Who knows how much money they're making? We don't know. In the olden days, they would not even talk about the money because they didn't want the income tax guys to come after them. That was how it was. How much, my film was, it was a flop. It might have made 50 lakhs, which probably in those days was a lot of money. Today, they'll say 100 and 200, who knows? So, when she makes hers and he makes his and I make mine and he makes his, our films has gone to 20,000 viewers, probably 30, probably whatever, 25, 15, 20, 25, his is, it's a newer film. That many people, me distributing the film through PVR, I don't think that many people would have seen my film, seriously, and that's the power. And our films have gone, all our films, through festivals, we've reached out to people that they would never come to the multiplex to see a film, never. A lot of the documentaries now are going on VOD, which is video on demand, which abroad, a lot of it is Netflix. There's Amazon, there's iTunes, and there's a whole bunch of other channels that do this. And a serious moviegoer will not go to the multiplex with their kids and have popcorn and Coke and see a documentary, that they're really interested in seeing. They'll leave the kids to go to Disney films. They'll enjoy the documentary at home with a glass of wine. Don't you agree?
Yeah, I don't drink, but yeah. Yeah, I think like what you pointed about PVRs is very interesting. Even if you had a documentary slotted for a PVR release, it would come at some stupid o'clock at like 11, so on Tuesday morning where,
Okay, PVR. I'm just, taking a name. I never had any business deals with them. If you ever managed to show your film through PVR documentary, they had it till last year, 11 o'clock on a Tuesday morning. So you had it, and for that you probably have to pay a lot of money to get it in there, few lakhs on yourself. Yep. Yeah. So can you tell me a little bit about, you've also lived in the UK, right? You go back and forth, is it?
I travel, yeah.
Yeah. So how do you see documentaries there? I mean, what are your...
I think just as there are avenues here which facilitate independent cinema, you also have same spaces such as these, because I think everywhere around the world, filmmakers face this dilemma. I don't think that it's only...
No, it's pretty universal. You'll see, they have better channels of distribution. They have more art house theaters in Europe, which really helps the cause. But fact, yes.
Yeah, but I think that the fact that there is a community here in India as well, the fact that we're sitting together right now and discussing these things, just reflect that there's a huge potential even in terms of alternative stories, in terms of independent filmmaking. And I think that there should be more and more festivals such as these which promote this kind of talent, where we can sit and talk about these things further and how to go about them, how do we address them, how do we go about funding for that matter, which is something that we will always talk about till the end of our...
Right. And the problem with funding is, if I may just share it with you, insight that I have now when I'm trying to make my first feature film. And with a feature film, it's a lot more money that you need. And you may have somebody who is so moved by your story that they'll give you money to fund the film. But when you get to the distributors who are going to sell the film, those are very commercial guys. They don't care about, they are not sentimental about it. They just need people to come to the theater, see the film, pay them money, that's it. So making a film is the easy part. The distribution is the harder part, and that's what we probably, as New Age filmmakers, we are trying to crack it. And when he says community building, that's literally what he means. You cannot leave it to the distributors. You have to go direct to the community that you want to be part of. I'll give you a small example. My film Riders of the Mist, which we showed here last year, it's a film on bareback horse racing in Jorhat, here in Assam. And I went through the regular festivals and all of that was good. And then all of a sudden, this one festival which just deals with horses, called the Equus Festival in New York, picked it up. And I just sent it to them, and they took it and they showed it, and then they made, they short selected it to 8 films that would be shown in horse-loving communities across the US and Europe. And they've taken it to the Kentucky Derby, they have taken it this and that. So truly, those niche crowds that you need to get into, that's where you need to tap into, wherever your film is, whatever your film is based on. With Sonia, with her, the women's issues, and demilitarized and AFSA and all of this stuff that she touches on. With him, with his, video installations, and, he has a whole art group. There's a whole art world that's probably waiting for you, and, you've just made friends in Assam now, in a huge community. So that's literally it.
Would you live in Assam? I'm very curious to ask this. I wanted to ask this for a long. Would you think you'd settle here?
I won't settle anywhere. I'm a storyteller.
No, in terms of it's such an emotional, personal story. But
yeah. So I won't.
How long did you
research
for the film?
Because I connect with people a lot here.
How long was the research for the entire film?
So, research went on for 6 months, I guess.
6 months?
Yeah, and then yeah, but it's a continuous process. Even while you're editing, you're still researching. So of course, until the end, you keep doing that. But I wanted to talk about niche audience as well. Like she's saying, all of us are surviving on niche audiences. We don't have mainstream audience. You can't make everyone happy in the digital age. Okay. Now, I'll tell you a very interesting thing about building niche audiences. Because of internet, okay, she made a film on horses. I may have only 5 people who are interested in horses in Assam, but I might have 5 people in every city in the world. Just imagine the number of fans that I get. Millions of fans. That was not possible before because there was a physical limitation for a film to spread. Now there is no physical limitation. So your niche audience, you can't make everyone happy. You have to go for a very focused, targeted subject, build a community around it, get your audience, and when you have an audience, money will come. Trust me. Plus, like we don't have much time now. So if you see in last couple of centuries, the reason we were able to make money off stories is because of the technological barrier we had. A book was a barrier. You can't copy a book. But then Xerox came, the whole industry was like going down. In films, you first recorded your film on the reel and then, just a minute, and then on top of it, DVD came, but then digital came and you can copy your films and the whole industry. What happens is, I'll tell you, when you make a film, you struggle for 2-3 years with so many passionate people coming together. You release your film and your value is, there is no value to your film anymore. Okay. You do the same thing for a startup. Don't give as much as passion and hard work that you give for a film. But when you do it for a startup, you work for 2 years, the value starts going up. That's the whole difference. We consider our films as a product. That's such a insulting thing to our stories itself. So that's why I'm saying it's...
if I can add to what he says, and then we have to open it up for audience interaction. I also viewed Riders was my first feature-length documentary. I also viewed it as something that would help me build myself to become a director. This was my first directorial effort at that level. It was like, okay, this is it, and then, I kind of built myself on it. This is not the first and the last. This is not going to get me, I probably won't recover the money that I spent on it, and I was okay with that. But so long as it kept me going to the next and the next and the next, it's just steps that you take, and that's how I see myself in this kind of a scenario. This is not the first and the last one, and it never should be. I think we are running out of time. We need to open it up. Any closing words from you guys before we do, or we go reverse? I mean, should we let's get the questions. Yeah. Any questions?
Couple of questions actually, haven't watched any of your movies. I'm sorry yours was being screened. I had to go out to eat. And from the conversation, I somehow could gather that both of you are basically documentary filmmakers, or do you also? Yeah.
So my first foray into filmmaking was fiction.
Okay. Yeah. So something about I don't know your exact. Just want to pose a few questions.
That's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things I want to ask you is, how do you define New Age? Can you define New Age cinema apart from the politics? Can New Age cinema hang apart from the politics or the identity questions that it's supposed to address? Secondly, I would want to generally know about the active form. I mean, apart from viewing it as a story, so how do you think about the form, the visual form?
So you mean the storytelling form, the visual form of the film, or
the form in which it is presented?
Any of you want to
so
take
do you see the camera as a passive thing, like a thing being
he wants more
displayed?
You go more into the camera
and finally I want to generally know about your idea about the economics of it. How does it work?
Right. So I'll give you a small brief example. One is the second part of your question, which is about form. I think that this is from personal experience, and other people might disagree or they might have a different opinion about it. But when I did Non-Diegetic Identities, which was a video installation, most of my material was footage or audio from the net, which I would call found footage or found audio. So some of these would include important speeches that were being made during the independence. Some of them were images during the Babri Masjid demolition. Some of these were images from the Nelly massacre. but the great thing about some working with multiple projectors, footage such as this, and at the same time also having a VM in front of you, a vision mixer, is that you know, your final product, or the product at that point of time, is still very limited to a time and space continuum. You know, your images there and then at that point of time are entirely being determined by you at that specific point of time, as opposed to film, where at the end of the day you sit with the edit and you say, okay, this is done now, I'm going to put it out there. You know. The first part of your question, does the politics change? I think that you know, it's you know, I always ask myself, if I was a Bollywood filmmaker, would I be in a position to say these kind of stories? You know, and I don't think so. You know, I don't think that would have happened. So I guess that these are also kind of choices that you would also make as someone who wants to tell these stories. You know, which form is best? How do you connect with your audience the most? What is the most innovative way for you to tell these kind of stories? So, yeah, I think that it's also important to have, like, you know, a mainstream, because without the mainstream you don't have an alternative. But I think it's pretty important for people also on the alternative or the subaltern, for that matter, to constantly create culture. You know?
Yeah. So basically, you were talking about what is the place of visual medium apart from just say it's a storytelling medium, right? And what are the economics in that? What is more important is you can convey ideas through these media, through the visual medium, basically, and that's what matters more. It can be news, it can be a cinema, it can be a short film, or it can just be someone making a Vine video or a Snapchat video. At the end of the day, it is, and that's what the whole thing the digital thing has done with us. Because, and considering the economics of that's what I'm saying. Now, if you make this visual thing, right, so he made the visual installation and he used footages off the internet from various sources. Now, he can't claim the rights to that. But that's totally all right, because that's not the point. It's like he's telling a story and he's building a community around it. What you can't do is, you can copy it. But what you can't do, so I can't build the same community as he's doing. So that is his unique advantage. And that's where the whole economics come in. Because now he has built his own unique advantage through the visual medium, he can now figure out how can he, build business on top of that. So that is what I have to say.
Sure. Yes. Sonia.
It was a very interesting question. As per my experience in terms of economy and in terms of how do we relate to the audience and New Age cinema, actually, my film is about a lifeless piece of cloth which she can't speak or he can't speak for herself. Probably I have to build a narrative through how people are experiencing it. In fact, I am the subject in the film. I'm there in the film. I'm standing right there. I'm telling the stories of the people. This is what I've experienced since 5 years old, something like that. Let me take you all. I'll just hold your hand. Let's go through the history of Manipur. I'll take you along. Very simple. And I want to see how this little piece of cloth which cannot speak at all, how it is represented in different kind of medium. Let's say, be it traditional medium, I have been studying how it's represented through paintings, how through theaters, how through puppetry, how in the new actually video films and films, how it's represented in a fiction film in Manipur. So probably we have to see through different things, and how that is how we can actually see ranges of audience, actually the age groups as well.
Yes, I think we are really running short on time now. One more question maybe, and then we'll have to round it up. One last question. No? Okay. I think we really have to go. We have a film coming up, but thank you so much for being here. And we are all around. If you ever need any more, if you need to meet with any of the filmmakers here. And as we say, 2-3 cheers, well, to our kind of filmmaking. And hopefully this is the new standard. Believe me, I really believe, and I'm part of it. So I really believe that this is the new standard. I mean, the big studios are all they're putting apps out there. They are putting apps to put out 5-minute films, 10-minute films, and I'm talking, the studios of Karan Johar and Yash Raj and all these big guys in Bollywood. Everybody wants to put an app out there, and they'll put in short films there. And when I have editors working with me, they say the maximum attention span before attention goes away is 3 minutes today. And thanks to MTV and thanks to all the music videos, 30 seconds actually. 30 seconds is the cut, or 4 seconds, right? MTV cut is 4 seconds. There's another genre where it's 30 seconds. And if you put like a 10-minute film, make sure that the first 3 minutes is where you say everything, because after that they may just switch off. So this is where the attention span is today. So we really are in a new world, and so be it, we'll be there. So thank you again, and I hope you had fun. Thank you.